just pure number of plot points and like subplots, character things going on. It's a Malazan book. You know what I mean?
It's more complex than Malazan, okay? Malazan's got nothing. Welcome back, crawlers, to another Tutor Ramble episode. I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
I'm the other crawler, Richard.
Book 7 time for Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Now, before you hear Book 7, whoa, that Book 7 of what series is this? We'll do a quick, what is this series about? What's Book 1? You see, we've had 7 reviews on our channel now. This series is all about, it's a lit RPG, which means literature role-playing game, where Chapter 1 of Book 1, our main character, Carl, is just in his house with his boxers on, and his ex-girlfriend's cat jumps out of a window, and he goes, oh my God, let me go get the cat, goes out, and there's an alien invasion. All houses, everything's crushed, people die everywhere, and there's this game called The Crawl, which Carl and others participate in, where the aliens just host this game show, and humans are their cannon fodder, and hilarity and seriousness also ensues. And that's just because sometimes we've been doing reviews and not catching people up to speed. But it's Book 7. We recommend the series. We recommend it.
If you can't get it by then, but go back, watch Book 1 to get full in-depth, spoiler-free review. But that is a good overall summary of the series.
The premise. It's fun. And the most shocking thing, as you get further into the series, if you're still teetering on it, I would not still read the series at this point if it was just lit RPG, if it was just the crawl itself. To me, the best part about it as you go on is that it constantly expands. And my favorite part about these books now, characters are awesome.
Yeah.
I even like the world more. It's insane. It's fun. So there's the recommendation. But now we're going to catch up to speed. Books 1 through 6. We will not spoil Book 7. We will give you spoiler warning 10 minutes into this episode, but we're going to just recap, catch people up.
Okay.
And so what ended Book 6, which was, what was that one called? That was, Butcher's Masquerade was 5. 6 was Bedlam Bride.
Yes.
The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. Rich, do you want to recap us of where did the crawl, that was level 8, correct?
Yeah.
The end. So Book 6 was level 8, or skipped because it skipped to level 9. Didn't we just jump one? Or no. The previous one skipped. Okay, catch us back up to speed. You got this.
All right. Eye of the Bedlam Bride is, from the title, there's a quest. You know, the Eye of the Bedlam Bride. Carl and Donna come across this big old spider. They have to go on a quest to investigate, help this spider reach the lower floors or not. Who knows? Danger ensues. The floor is a mirror of, I believe, 10 days before the collapse, or like the month before the actual collapse of Earth. And there's trading cards, basically. It's this book's version of Pokemon. You can actually play cards, and that's how most of the battle ensues. At the end of the novel, you get the Bedlam Bride, this monstrous spider creature, takes over Carl's mind and hurts some of his allies, literally rips one of their eyes out of their sockets and eats it. Does a bunch of random things that we don't know the full extent of what she really did. And lastly, because she knew that Carl was going to betray her, tattooed an image of an eye on his chest, which allowed her to seep into his body and speak in his mind, eventually trying to basically play little chicken with him. Like, you're taking me to the lower floor, or I'm taking us both down with me. And that's what we're kind of left with. We're also left with, hey, we're about to go into Faction Wars. Faction Wars has been hyped up for a while. This is a big thing people have been looking forward to. There's all these different players on the game for first time. Well, not the first time, but for the first significant time, the actual the crawlers are fighting back in a more significant way.
We have our job cut out for us
There's
today.
so much.
Again, we'll say spoiler warning before we talk book 7. So this is still spoiler free for book 7.
Mm-hmm.
We have our job really cut out for us because so much happens in this book. We're going to try to break down, but also we're not going to cover everything. It's not possible. It's
100%.
This book is insane. It's so there's more moving parts in this book than most high epic fantasy I've ever read.
I'll be honest,
without a doubt.
Just the pure number, not saying anything else, but just pure number of plot points and like subplots, character things going on. It's a Malazan book. You know what I mean?
It's more complex than Malazan, okay? Malazan's got nothing. There's a lot. And to the online reviews I've seen from others, so patrons, and by the way, we have a Patreon book club. You can join, link in the description below. And also Dungeon Crawler Carl, we have a link to that, our affiliate links, all that stuff if you want to support. But patrons and also online Goodreads reviews alike, this book 7 lands on either people's favorite of the series or they have the most qualms and least favorite of the series. And a lot of that had to do with just how much insanity there is. And before I ask you where you kind of stand on that, I have a quick anecdote just to describe it, just the series in general. I had the end credits, you know, when Jeff Hayes does his fun stuff on the audiobook of promoting Sound Booth Theater. And it was either that or the one before where it was dicks were being talked about and this and that and all just things. And I took my headphones off because I was done with the book. I just had it out in the background. Nicole walks by and goes, "What the hell kind of audiobook are you listening to?" And just batted the most absurd eyes going like, "What do you and Rich do on this podcast?" and so it's you just can't explain the series to people. It's the dick and the thing, it makes sense. It's sent. Don't worry.
The penis cozies make sense in context.
So that generally what I'm seeing online is people's favorites, least favorite. Spoiler-free thoughts on book 7. Where did it land for you? What do you think overall?
Book good, but not my favorite. There's some letdown here.
Okay.
Some definitely really strong moments, but overall I left with a sense of like, oh, is that it?
Okay.
I kind of wanted more, but we'll get into it.
Okay. If you had to put it somewhere on your series list, where would it go?
I would probably, in order of like best to worst, like 1 being my favorite.
Which is Butcher's Masquerade for you, right?
Yeah. I would put this at 6.
So 1 from last. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I think
I'm the trains were still.
Oh, that's your least favorite?
Yeah, still.
Okay, we have a different ranking. We have a slightly different ranking, but for me, this one lands dead center.
Yeah.
I have, for me, it goes book 4, 6, 1, 7, 3, 5, 2. That's my ranking of it. So my favorite's still book Gate of the Feral Gods, but this one's right in the middle. And for me, if I spoiler free describing this book, already made clear, it's a chaotic book, not a chaotic mess, but chaotic book. And for that's both for me a bug and a feature where there was so much happening where the world to me was explosive and I was very, very immersed. There was sometimes I couldn't keep track of the characters or the subplots happening and I was getting confused. For me, these kind of books I'm listening to these are my fun, cozy, it's just a lit RPG. That's all it is. But I had to take some serious mental energy and focus going, okay, wait, oh yeah, that's because that's this specific crawler who's doing that. Okay, I don't want to, but basically to go down to, I think this book above all the previous ones on a reread would increase the most for me.
I can definitely see that. There's also the aspect that I have to give this book a great degree of credit of, despite my qualms, the plot is so detailed, so complex, and I don't think is confusing. Like I read it and I understood what was going on, and I am shocked by how well Matt Dinniman was able to actually write this and get it to this polished state. It is very impressive. So all power to him.
Oh yeah.
But I'll get into my negatives on the plot later.
I love the structure of the book too. And for those who read it, you'll know. But the structure was great. No, the one thing you can't say is Matt Dinniman didn't like work on this one.
Oh yeah.
This was any of the not enjoyment is on a personal qualm of going, okay, you have your pride. I guess here's the thing too. Do you like it more when Dungeon Crawler Carl is more focused, or when it gets more big and grand? These are big floors. Butcher's Masquerade was the floor. What was it? Book 2 was level 3. Do you like the big everything coming together, those floors, or do you like the in-between more focused ones where, hey, trading card game, book 6, Gate of the Pharaoh Gods, book 4, because you get two kind of vibes.
Sure.
It's either focused on this floor or grand scale.
I do like the grand scale. It's just how many different plot points are we following? I think grand scale's either one. As some of my favorites are both types of floors, both types of plots. My main issue, if I were to sum up my problem with the book, or the thing that kind of took a little out of me, is a big part of my enjoyment through books 1 through 6 is the creativity of how Carl and Dona and the rest get out of situations. I think Matt Dinniman does normally a really great job of setting something up and then using it in a really creative way. And you see, you see him break the mold, and that's always fun to see these creative solutions. I feel like this book, more so than really any other, that stuff just kind of happens. Like, we're written into like, hey, this thing happens, and then a character uses this random ability that really haven't heard of until this book 5 pages ago. And then there's other things I'm going like, why didn't they use this ability? It's gotten so large and grand that the abilities are becoming not as aha moments, more just power. And that's a general power scaling problem with lit RPGs in general. But
that's funny. You have the thought. Yeah.
There's less of like one of my, like, still remember how creative and awesome it is. Best example is when Carl, again, this is spoilers, I guess, for a previous book. I believe
we're not book 7 yet, but
book 2.
We'll give warning.
I believe Carl in the first book, he gets the shell, like the invisible shell shield, basically a personal bubble shield that when he activates it, it stays in place even if he moves. And what he does on the third floor with the trains is he uses the bubble on a
third book, the trains. Because
that's the third book?
The third book, Dungeon Anarchist
Yes,
book.
You're right.
Yes, is the
Thank you.
Third book is the trains, yes.
So an ability he gets in the very first book, in book 3, he uses that same ability on a moving train because it stays in place. The train moves, it crushes it. All the enemies get crushed through this train, and it's just like, oh, that's so creative and clever. I don't really have any of that in this book. At least not to the same degree. So that was kind of a downside where I'm going like a little bit too much Deus Ex Machina moments.
Got it.
And it felt a little bit more, Matt has so much on his plate. There's so many plot points. There's just really no way to come up with a more creative, established solution. So it's just, we got to move. Throw a new ability and we're out. So that was kind of my general issue with the book.
What did you give your Rambler rating score for the book?
I went up. I started at a 3.25, but I went up to a 3.5.
Okay, so good for you. I gave it a 3.75. Really good book for me. And so you started lower. Wow.
I started lower.
Dang. So
I have a much lower category in here.
I think if we were to look at the previous books, obviously you started Dungeon Crawler first, got me into it. This is consistent with the rest of the series to me, where I put it in the center of where Dungeon Crawler as a series has these things I love and these things that I'm less invested in. And I think the case you're talking about here, your favorite book, Butcher's Masquerade, book 5.
Yeah.
The best thing about Dungeon Crawler, characters fun, solving problems like this, AI, intergalacticness, craziness. How do you solve the problems? How do you feel the emotions but also laugh? But the biggest problem, and I think this book where will differ, where it disappoints you, there's so many plot threads that which ones get focused on, which ones get dropped, which ones did you care about more, which ones did you not. So book 5, for example, when book 4 ended, I cared a lot about Beatrice. I cared about that plot line. I was like, oh, where's this going? This is the one connection to Carl. What does that mean? And it was used as a plot moment there.
It had a good plot moment.
Yeah, it had a good plot moment.
Very memorable.
I thought that was going to stretch and like that's a new... It was
going to be a new dimension to the story.
I was in that. Now, for example, this isn't the case. I'll just give an example. Like the spider. I don't care about the spider. It's a spider. I'm not saying no.
Exactly.
It's a good
I get
element.
What you mean?
The whole element is there's so many plot threads of what are you invested in all those plots.
Yeah.
And obviously we're invested in Carl and Donut. So there's...
I actually do have some like character things that... Yeah. A little bit of a letdown with this book. I thought more stuff would... this would be the Empire Strikes Back of the novel, like of this series. Like some serious things would happen that would be hard for the team to actually deal with. And I feel like that has been... most of them has been kick the can down the road. More specifically for me, are we starting to get into spoilers?
We gave our scores and everything.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Let's officially get into it. I want to end just before to give this. I'm also positive on the book.
I am definitely
I sound like a
negative. I sound like a negative Nancy, but some of the best like structure of the book. There's some character highs for characters introduced in this book. Like I got real emotional on some of these characters of it landed for me. I'm really enjoying it. So
you might agree the best things in our categories here for me, world building.
Yeah, and that's my favorite.
That was my favorite. And then close behind, I still got characters. Love characters in this world. And
I agree.
For me, the least best, if I had to do, were tied with emotional and thought-provokingness, or the lowest.
Sure. Yeah, that's generally true for me.
And
I have plot as my lowest.
Okay. And if anybody here is going, oh, I'm only going to read book 7 on Rich and Austin's recommendation, you're probably not here for that. But I know from seeing out there, this was either some people's emotional high of crying, laughing the whole time, again, or least favorite. So I'm curious where you guys all land below. Let us know. Comment, where does this rank in your Dungeon Crawler rankings? But spoiler warning.
Yep.
Spoiler time. Click off if you don't want book 7, This Inevitable Ruins. We didn't even say the book title yet, did we?
They can read the title.
We probably did. This Inevitable Ruins. Spoilers starting now. Emotional impact. Would you give it out of 5 stars?
I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was good.
I also gave it a 3.5. Good.
This was it's weird because the ending for me was more of a lower point I was kind of disappointed with the ending, but there were so many scenes I was just so emotionally invested in. I laughed so much with Donut. I was nearly crying as well, along with Carl and all the former Anarchist Cookbook members.
That was the best part about the book.
Oh, that was by far the most emotional and best part of the book was all the former anarchists coming back.
And then Carl, we'll talk more on World 2, but just the camaraderie of Carl hugging his fellow crawlers, or his fellow Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook previous crawlers, and then not being able to say anything to anybody else. And they're going, Carl, why are you... Who the hell is that? It's a stranger to you. And he's just hugging him.
Also, just some of the crawlers, I really loved the hidden... The cookbook crawler that was in Club Vanquisher.
Yes.
That was just
not Emery. Am I totally wrong?
Again, we're not good with names here. Sorry.
Yep.
But her story and was less dramatically tragic on its own, but to me was the most emotionally impactful story. And I loved every second with her. And the conclusion with it was heartwarming.
What disappointed you then in the end?
There were a couple plot points that were just kind of felt like it was glossed over. I would say the 2 big ones that I feel were really let down or just not carried forward enough for that I was disappointed is Carl and the consistent thing of like the river, his rage, this something's building up, and it's connected to the Ring of Divine Suffering. And it feels like it's mentioned, but not built. And then the ring is just eaten and done. Oh, okay, is that it? Is that the conclusion? More? Is it more? But even if there is more, this book, it felt like it ignored it to me. It's a lot of surface level of Carl being like aware of the river. Like it's constantly mentioned. And I'm looking for what does that mean? What's the impact? What's going to happen? And I don't feel it there. There was also, I think one of the bigger ones is Donut and Katya. And that whole... The tiara thing just felt, okay, fine. Mostly like an afterthought. And I thought it was going to be more of a prime plot point or something with a more difficult decision. And it felt like just, they solved it and they're moving on. So
she chooses to have a kid at the end, right? And that, I think that's the exact thing. When people look at Dungeon Crawler books, book one is very easy for people to be on the same page of what are the stakes, what do we care about, what plot points. You get the interviews with Odette, and we're all rooting for Carl and Donut to get to the next floors. There's minimal plot points. When you read a lot of these books on our shelves, there's obviously the B plot in Dungeon Crawler Carl is the AI / intergalactic orcs and Valte and everybody and outside the crawl. But since we're inside the crawl, there's a lot of subplots within the crawl that you care about more or less, which I said in the spoiler-free part about, I cared about Beatrice and that plot line. Yeah. You're going, the Ring of Divine Suffering. I thought that was on the upper tier of plots to focus on, but you didn't get that.
Yeah, but that was a big one for me. And that's highly linked to Carl's character. I thought there was something... We'll get into it more later, but I was left at the end of the book kind of feeling like, everything's just kind of wrapped up. All right. And a lot of times these books end with kind of a big cliffhanger or something disastrous, like something kind of rolling me into the next book. This one felt generally just mostly positive, like pretty good. They solved almost all the problems and moving on.
They kind of built up the nothing as one aspect. And I think the, what was the other, the epilogue that we got with, could you remind me of names? We're not going to get names. We'll just give up on a lot of them. But the nothing coming and the ascendancy seems to be the next built up big thing.
Yeah. Which for a while now, I've been convinced that just in my own head that the ascendancy just wasn't going to happen. I thought it was just like...
I've had the opposite.
It's this one thing that I was like, nah. I'm looking at this whole dungeon crawl and thinking, Carl, at some point, he's been shaking the train. And at some point, he's going to derail this train. And it's going to be chaotic. The mold is going to be breaking. We're not going to be in this dungeon forever. We're not getting all the way down to the bottom floor. And I thought the Ascendancy game is kind of like this outside thing that like it's hyped up, but it's ultimately going to be subverted. It seems like I'm wrong. We are going into the Ascendancy game.
Maybe you're not wrong. I have had the opposite of, I always felt, I didn't think Faction Wars was the boom switch up book. I still, because nothing beyond the Ascendancy throne level is at level 12.
Yeah.
Because nothing beyond that's really being hinted at, other than we know what they do at the higher floors of they have gambling rings and all these things because nobody ever makes it there. They just use those floors for other purposes, but nothing beyond the 12th floor is being built up really. Like what's happening on the 15th? It seems like the 12th floor is where switch up might happen. I guess that's one big thing of what my favorite Dungeon Crawler book was book 4, Gate of the Feral Gods. That felt as if we had the biggest momentum or push outside the game, although books since then have obviously pushed outside the game, where that was the first time Carl killed an admin, is now pointing to them saying, fuck all y'all, I'm coming, and leads into Butcher's Masquerade.
I thought that a lot of that setup was
that momentum.
Faction Wars of, that's when he's going to be able to actually touch them, not just the mercenaries from the Butcher's Masquerade. And a lot of, like, that was some small potatoes.
Well, at least they're all touched in this book.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm like going, this is the moment.
Yeah.
This is Carl's big moment to like take the fight to them.
Yeah.
Ooh. So yeah, I felt this one was.
Did you not feel the fight was taken to them here?
It was, but it was not as satisfying, I guess.
Okay. Okay, so did you find it as fun or funny as Dungeon Crawler typically is?
As funny? Yeah. Honestly, up there in some of the humor. I think one of the funniest moments, if like laugh out loud funny, is just the image in my head I pictured when Donut crushed all of the enemies with the like gigantic astral paw. And you think to yourself, like, this gigantic paw in the sky, and the first image you think is she's going to it's going to slowly come down and then crush them underneath the ground. And how it's described is like an actual cat just bat, bat, bat. I saw like my old cat like batting something. I'm like, that's hilariously cute and devastating.
Gruesome,
yeah. I laughed out loud. I thought it was hilarious.
Do you think you're falling, I guess, where your lower feels on this one compared to others is you're falling into the deep lit RPG aspect of the books, and you're not maybe the biggest fan of the lit RPG, because the power leveling is something you mentioned of the solving of problems and how you like in book 3 using the shield in a creative way, where the powers are just so ramped up where Donut by the end is level 120. Carl's 90. They have these nuclear powers at this point.
What I like is how it used to kind of relate to the characters and make the characters, force them to make really hard decisions and their place in the story. And so with plot points kind of just, because I go, oh, how are they going to get out of it? What is Carl going to have to sacrifice to be able to do this? And what consequences does it have on these characters?
Yeah.
That's always the fun part. But if it's more of, hey, Carl got this ability from, the AI is really hinting, get this ability. And then 2 chapters later, he's put into a situation where he uses that exact same ability and gets out of it. How many times can that happen before you're going, all right, like the stakes kind of hurt. And the fact that Carl's able to get out of it with more extreme ease, it just scot-free, really. That harms my opinion on some of the main characters. Like, the reason my character score is as high as it is the
your
side.
Not.
I know, but later on. But it's the side characters.
Yeah.
But we're getting into the emotion. What else worked for you? Why did you think it was good? Because I'm talking both negative and positive. So
yeah, we both say it's good.
I do think the positives outweigh any of my negatives. So that's why I'm still saying it's good. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of your complaints are things in the past, for every single Dungeon Crawler book, I appreciate, how do you get out of the things in fun ways? But from the get-go, I always put this in the perspective of this is a game where the AI can do whatever. For me, that's why I'm looking for the ramp up of when do we break out of the dungeon, lit RPG stuff a bit, to then change the stakes or change what can actually be done. I liked it because we talked about the crawlers from the past, the tidbits, the milk, and all the camaraderie between them. Also, I think I'm just getting ultra invested in. I'm getting very, very invested in all the things that Carl and Donut seem so small now, in a good way. I know some people might not like that as much of Carl and Donut. They're our main 2 cast, but I like the fact that I guess here's what I like. When there's even a moment where maybe he gets a new power and solves it in the next couple chapters, I like that whatever's being thrown at Carl and Donuts, it seems like whatever power's being given or whatever thing is happening, there's a backstory and a bunch of knowledge that Carl and Donut just aren't aware of, that we're just not being told because the world is functioning outside of them. So a lot of that stuff works for me more where, hey, I didn't love it. It's not my favorite thing ever, but I like how in the dark I am. It's getting me to go, why is that all functioning this way? And it's just getting me more to think about the bigger powers at play And that's what I like. So I'm just more in the dark. I'm waiting to see where this is all going.
I actually had that in my notes of when I was reading the story that
Yeah.
I found it was interesting that Carl, just what I wrote is, it was interesting that Carl is no longer the sole necessary force, becoming more of a team compared to earlier books. And Carl is not as informed as the others. And it definitely makes him a little bit more passive and reactive to characters. I think there's a really good moment in this book that just shows like where that is done incredibly well. And it's when closer to the end of it, Donut is thrown into danger. And Carl kind of has this like mini panic moment. He drops explosive and he runs to Donut and fucks over everyone's plans.
Mm.
But he's so used to being the improv guy. And he shows like it's a benefit in many cases, but it was a curse. It really hurt his team. And he put Donut ahead of everyone else. And that's a really great moment of like when you don't know the plans and things get shaken up. That's fun to see. But yeah, you're right. Carl isn't as much of a necessary force, and it puts us, the reader, in a very interesting position of going, okay, if Carl isn't as much like he's a leader, he's not the leader anymore. And so it actually creates a couple interesting moments in the book where he is treated sometimes like the leader, where in the book I'm seeing him more as a leader of like, why are you treating him that way? He's not the most important crawler in here anymore.
You don't think who do you think is most important in the powers at play?
I mean, at this point, Prepotente. But thing is, almost any one character, and this comes into plot, and like my emotional enjoyment is kind of when it's some big situation comes out and then just another character comes out of nowhere and like solves the issue. It's like, oh, okay. Fair enough. And then we move on, and it's not as enjoyable as when
Matt Dinman, he is a pantser, right?
Yeah.
He likes to write himself into corners and then solve to get out of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this book wasn't any different from the ones prior of my expectations of the series. I for example, here's a scene. It just kind of gets thrown at you, right? Of Carl is transporting himself to become the Bedlam bride for a bit. And remember that whole scene? And then he gets teleported and they were trying to trap him to kill him while he was in his state of going from Carl to the Bedlam bride. And then this worm, they were trying to kill him. And he wakes up and goes, what the hell just happened? And reactive scene of Carl getting filled up to date of, oh yeah, they tried to kill you. Here's what's happening. And the AI explains, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. Throws it at you. Now, prior to that moment, throughout the entire book, we're not expecting, oh yeah, when Carl teleports, obviously it's set up that he's going to be transported out and attempted to being killed by these people who are trying to, the aliens who see him at a vulnerable state and are using this against him. No, just thrown at you. I constantly see Dungeon Crawler as the next chapter. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. It gets explained in post constantly. That's a lot of what happens. And I know your example, the shield is a good example, but the thing is, my enjoyment of the series, it's still at the same it's always been, just because it always seemed it's random, but the random's justified in post a lot of the times. The
caveat difference there is that scene is not set up. It is thrown at you.
Yes. Yeah.
My bigger issue is when things are set up sufficiently of like, oh yeah, this is the plan, and then the solution just kind of comes out of nowhere, where it's, I'm getting invested. All right, let's figure out how to do it. And then it's not a surprise. It's just, oh, that character comes out of nowhere and solves the plan. And it's like, okay, it's not as fun.
Oh, I'm with you.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'm with you in that part too. Just, I think it's just a general part of Dungeon Crawler, and I'll just beat it to death until the end of this episode of, there's so many plot points. What do you care about? Oh, that's one I really cared about. Okay, that was focused in 2% of the book.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that's to sum up why emotionally I was high, then a little low, and so I'm good. Evened out.
Good, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll get we'll talk a little bit about it in character moments, but
Yes.
there were plenty of great character moments that I was emotionally invested with them in. Something I made a point of in a previous couple books is I wanted to see more of Donut. I think the story was lacking some Donut perspective or Donut moments. I think we got a lot of good ones in this book. That was probably one of my favorite parts, is Donut got a lot of time to shine.
Do you want to go into thought-provoking?
Yeah.
So themes, messages, what'd you give out of 5 stars?
Thought-provoking, I gave a 3.25. Above average.
Nice. I gave a 3.5. Good.
There you go. What did you see as the bigger themes in this story?
It's hard to, when we talked about each of the prior ones, it's the same recurring theme of you will not break me.
Yeah.
That's the general theme of the human spirits going beyond and facing this challenge. But on top of that, getting into sentience and AI and what does it mean, all those things in the background. So it covers the same things as previous. I think some of the previous ones, since it already happened in some of the previous ones, this one didn't elevate it to anything that we already haven't learned from book 6 or book 5, as far as I'm thinking, just as the messages and themes go. But I think that's what the overall theme of it is, and obviously that comes down to play with. Here's a quote from the book: "When big things happen on such a large scale, it's easy to forget sometimes that these big things are also happening to the little things in the world."
That is probably one of the larger messages of the story. It's, constantly hit home how much we get to see the crawl and how many people are suffering and dying from the dungeon crawl, and how the rest of the universe is very indifferent to it and sees it all as a game. And a lot of this book in particular is forcing the rest of the universe to show, like, Carl and the rest of the humans are going, we're going to make this not a game for you. And Carl has that moment where the it's not the Valte worm, but one of the alien species navigates, does everything it can to negotiate with Carl, leader of Earth, to like, hey, look,
Yes.
if you help us just sign this, if we all make it out, we have a spot in your solar system. That way we won't actually just be snuffed out. We believe that Earth will be the new center, a new center hub of the universe. And so we want a place here. And gives very favorable terms and like lays out a very logical argument of why Carl should accept this, of like, hey, look, if they don't all blow up, if they do survive, they're going to need help. And some spaceships for humans with aid, all these things, not a terrible trade. Like, it should be considered. But Carl says, like, no, you're all going to pay. Every last one. None of you get to make a deal. Nobody gets an off-ramp. If we don't get an off-ramp, no one gets an off-ramp. And at this point, he doesn't want an off-ramp.
Yeah.
They're all going down. They always like, please, humans, we're going to stop the crawl. He goes, no!
How about no?
Like, he's all in.
Yeah.
He's all in on every last one of these fuckers is going to pay. Everyone, like, not just the people who participating, not people who facilitating, the people that watched, the people that benefited, the people that profited off of it. All of them are going to pay. And so in that situation, I think that's one of the moments where you go, is Carl in the right? I think it's exciting. It's like, yeah, Carl, make him pay. But then you actually like sit down for a second and go, Carl's in a very unique position here to like
negotiate,
hedge your bets. Like, you're playing with the remainder of humanity. That may be something to consider or even talk about with others. But
the other decision he has to make of flicking the switch or not, pressing the button.
Yep. And he decides to, rightly so, choose his life, even in the face of never-ending suffering. You know, that is the role of human beings. The role of life is to suffer. We must face it with bravery and courage.
And I always appreciate, so again, this continues the themes from prior books, but I like how it's always shown. So it's not just handled on a, human spirit, but through Carl's point of view of showing it to the man of the aliens, but then at the same time to the people he cares about, shows how he just doesn't leave anybody behind. When Louis is taken over and his organs are changed into this alien, and he's completely corrupted, significant portion of just the end of the book and the climax is focused on saving Louis.
Yeah.
And doing anything that you can and making it work when the easy decision to do is just move on. But I think it's been done better in prior books because we got those plot beats earlier, but how Carl views the NPCs and even caring about the NPCs in this game to a level that makes you also question about what...
Oh, his relationship with Juicebox is definitely shifted a lot in this book. But I think this is where the story is going. I'm making a prediction, and I'm kind of waiting for Carl to reach a rock bottom. I thought we would get something like that in this book, but clearly not. We're going to have something where Carl makes the objectively wrong mistake, the wrong choice, not a mistake, the wrong choice out of revenge, out of rage, out of because I suffered, everyone's going to suffer. I think the point with Carl and trying to bring the NPCs along and not leaving them behind and including them on, he's Team Human, but he's also now going, because how would he do the same thing for Juicebox as he did for Louis?
Right.
You don't know. It's evolving over time. My guess is his position on hey, I'm going to let the rest of the universe burn for humanity because they made humanity suffer, is probably going to evolve to going, no, for us to take our place among the stars, we can't let the rest of the universe burn. It's all right to fight for change and make sure, especially the threat, they need to all know they could burn. They need to all, that needs to be there. They need to understand it. But when the chips are down, hopefully choose integration and peace over, glass slate.
When do you think that's going to end, though? What book?
I don't
How many
know.
books in the series?
I'll be honest, I've been waiting for a while of Carl, the darkness taking over. That was spoken a lot about in this book. Several moments of Donut saying, hey, Carl, I'm scared for you. And Carl kind of zoning out, hearing the river and, told. I'm waiting for show. I'm waiting for the moment of, yeah, the river takes over. His rage explodes. He makes a poor choice.
The best decision.
I'm not seeing it yet.
The best book that did that for me, again, was book 4, Gate of the Feral Gods, where we got to see that Carl rage come out.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I think...
You're convincing me on book 4. I love book 4. It is my second.
It's my favorite.
Oof.
All the best things happen in book 4.
Also, book 5, though...
Yeah.
Oh, just the twisted moment of him watching his fellow crawler die, seeing Prepotente cry, and then putting on the ring of divine suffering behind his back. Oh!
Decisions there. Decisions were made, yes.
It was just such a good moment. Anyway.
Yeah. And so to that point, is it a part of expectations where this kind of book series we're reading, is it more Dresden Files than it is... is it more Dresden Files than it is epic fantasy? Where
sure,
it's
I get what you
an
mean.
episode. You get what I'm saying? Of what if there's, by the end of this, I'm not saying this is what he will do. What if there's 30 Dungeon Crawler books?
Well, that's the thing. I think my expectations were that it's not purely episodic in nature. It's not like Dresden Files. I feel like we're constantly building toward something.
Yeah. Certainly.
Again, the train is shaking. It's gonna derail. If it was more episodic, the train always runs on time. And no matter what, by the end of the day, we all loop back to the characters kind of reset. I feel like that's not this story. It is building. It's building to something.
Oh yeah.
I felt like plot elements and world building built a lot in this book. A lot of stuff happened. But as for character building, we got a lot of really emotional moments, but I didn't feel like we got a lot of building on these characters. in this book. Not as much as I was really expecting.
Do you want to go into characters? Anything else you have on the themes and message of the story?
No, I mean, overall, there's the general. I understand it's just not worth, I think, talking as much about of the, consumerism, how much, morality does the consumer have in suffering of others and all these other things. Like similar themes in Blood Over Brighthaven, but I think here is done a lot better than that book. So, but yeah, talked about all this stuff before.
Character time. What'd you give out of 5 stars?
Characters, I gave a 3.75.
Okay.
Really good.
Really good. I gave a 4.5. Spectacular.
I get it.
And how fair is that to go? How much of that is building off of prior books as well? I was also looking at this book, and that's where it's weird. I have several categories that are very high. My total score for the book is 3.75, really good.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just characters and, oh my God, where do we begin? So when we're the cast of characters here, who are some new characters you want to talk about? Anybody new? I mean, a lot of the Anarchist Cookbook.
So I'll get out of the way. My score would be the same as yours.
Yeah.
But it's weird that I loved all of the new characters.
Mm-hmm.
In a ton of the side characters that have come before but have been built up and were given new light in this book, and we got more time with them. Loved all the new characters and the characters that we didn't get to see too much of.
Yeah.
My drawback, the reason I drop it a little lower, is my dissatisfaction with Carl, Katya, and Donut. Of like, it felt like they're basically the same character from the previous book. I felt like there should have been more heavy decisions for, like, I was a little disappointed in their characters, and I was not as invested with them, where I'm looking to other characters. So that's the reason mine is a little lower, but it's still really good.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Who was a standout to you?
We were talking about briefly before the God, and again, the standout, and yet I can't remember the name, of course. I know, I see the irony. But the Alchemist's cookbook crawler in Club Vanquisher nearly brought a tear to my eye. Like, oh God, what a sweetheart. What a sad case of everyone. All the others kind of had this degree of suffering and came back, and her inability to just get up and fight, and her immense disappointment of ultimately letting her people down with kind of a whimper. It didn't go down fighting, is just her level of self-isolation really hit home for me. I really enjoyed that. So I just her hugging Carl and him breaking down was so touching. And then everyone else going like, what the fuck, Carl? Random NPC, why are you like crying in her arms?
Yeah. So
that was really good. But I loved all the other cookbook crawlers. You'd agree with me, right?
Yes.
Like the cookbook crawlers were the best new characters in this story.
Tippett, Dante, Milk, Justice Light.
Oh God, Justice Light was fun. He again, you see definitely a common thread through all of these characters with Carl. You see why all of them kind of have this shared. I mean, again, it's the isolation. All of them are a little bit isolated from everyone else, and yet they're united together. Especially Justice Light being like even more removed from the others and has his big special plan. He's working with the NPCs. But what did you think about them?
Oh, I loved that each one of them had a specific motivation and backstory brought into the book. Of you saw what got them riled up.
Yeah.
So each and every one was, I love the structure of the book of just getting their point of views, and then we get to meet them and have the context and understand their story, because Carl also knows their context. So whether it was feeling guilty over leaving your friend behind in the crawl, or whether it was getting those little tidbits of the one Dungeon Anarchist cookbook crawler who ended up helping Prepotente. Yeah. And getting that and feeling for each of them and getting enough of their motivation, because what characters are, what is their motivation? Why are they here? Who are they? Why are they Are they realized? And getting that snippet of them made the Bridge 4, the Howlers, the Dungeon Anarchist cookbook team all feel as if they had this shared bond.
Well,
and so they felt so they were a squad. Yeah, go ahead.
I just had a thought about this of
Yeah.
think of the structure of the crawl.
Yeah.
In general of it's highly isolating to the race or the group of whatever species is participating in the crawl. Like it's all of the skyfowl together, and like that's where they're united to. They don't have any they haven't seen previous crawls. They go through this experience together, and whoever's remaining still has this connection.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they don't have enough empathy for anyone else. Like they're so worried about themselves. And then afterwards, they can see the future crawls and they can empathize. But they still have that trauma. I think what's unique about the cookbook is while they're in the crawl, they get to read and hear the stories of the sufferings of the previous species that go through this crawl. I think that definitely brings another aspect of why are the cookbook crawlers like the most dedicated and the ones leading the charge of bringing down this crawl and bringing everyone together is because they've been like through this book have been together this whole time. And that they've been, while they were suffering, read about the other people that are suffering, and it helped them in the way of like knowing someone else is going through the same thing as you can be comforting in a way. And so I love that aspect of like, it makes sense why these people are leading the charge against the crawl in general.
Oh, 100%. I think with you're saying all the cookbook crawlers, if you had to pick one, Rosetta.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Rosetta killing the orc.
Yeah.
That was such a satisfying.
King Rust, was it?
King Rust. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Hopefully
that was a satisfying moment.
Yeah. So beyond the cookbook crawlers, I think even though prior books, again, this is a build up. So what do I give credit to? But to me at this point, the AI is just amazing. I think the AI's unhingedness and ability to be plot armor for Carl and why the crawl is continuing, but also have this weird in this book, the AI embodied one of the people from, was it the train book? Remember, embodied one of the prior
the NPC that they had to cut off multiple hands for.
Yes,
yeah,
was that the train? Yeah, in the train book. But how you just see the AI becoming, now that the AI is unleashed to more than just the planet is going across the solar system. So the AI to me, and also the attitude of the aliens, and I am going to forget the name as well, but the ones who are the one that brings Carl and essentially says, hey, this is not about we don't have control anymore. This is you need to tell us right now. The adjudicator, yes. And so you see all of the villains you would think is a boss. Like King Rust was nothing. It was the kid. The kids are in control and in power now. But the AI and even the kill lady Cascadia, everything and everybody starting to turn more and more into turmoil. And for me, the main cast here, I'll agree with you, Katya. That decision wasn't. Saw that coming, but I did think it was touching to see Katya's past about her child or her. So seeing that in the past and seeing why she makes the decision as well, getting to see her second and worst nightmares and what she lives with constantly was touching.
And also the connection between her and Carl is definitely really touching.
Yes,
and their bond is incredibly strong. It's heartwarming to see.
Yes. Yeah.
So I liked those moments, but yeah, the endings for her is like going touching, nice, but not as, I don't know, final, grandiose as I maybe was putting in my own head.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on plot stuff of just the beats that happen there. For me, I'm just thinking of this entire cast of characters going, there so many are just irreplaceable.
Yeah.
I can't put...
another side character
who?
That is just so grown on me.
Who?
Prepotente.
I'm so glad you brought up Prepotente.
I love Prepotente.
He loves you.
I hope he does.
Because Prepotente, if you showed the ounce of love to him, I love you, Carl.
Well,
I die for you.
the thing is, he does actually start to have a unique bond with Carl. Like, it always is hard to like nail down Prepotente, you know? And you at first you kind of think like, is he, because he's kind of just so bipolar with like immediately like, oh, you're an idiot, I'm gonna kill you, versus I love you, you're my favorite person ever. But with Carl it is different. You see a genuine, but like Prepotente is alone and he feels like that being alone is the right thing and it's the strong thing, and more he's going to Carl, like accepting his friendship with Carl, and like he really needs him.
Yeah.
And he has nobody else. And one of the only crawlers that doesn't treat him like a pet or like a danger and someone to be coddled, even though Carl does treat him in that way, but he treats him with a degree of kindness and sympathy that maybe others don't. And other people are far more afraid of him than Carl is.
Yeah.
Especially with Carl being what he had to witness with, am I getting the right name? The Prepotente's previous, like the owner, Miriam Dom.
Yeah.
Prepotente, even though he knew that Carl like followed Miriam Dom's wishes and let her sacrifice herself, knew that Carl did a very humane thing and listened to Miriam Dom's last wishes. Yeah. It's like there's just that bond between them. I'm finding endearing.
It's very endearing. And Carl has specific bonds, obviously, with Princess Donut, with Prepotente, but also with a new pet, Rend.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Rend?
Funny.
Yeah, it's kind of my thought of like, Rend ain't Mongo. I feel like we're trying to make Mongo 2.0 and I don't know.
Mongo made Mongo 2.0.
Mongo did make Mongo 2.0. The little abomination.
The bear thing.
No, everyone's just going like, shut up. Don't say anything. That was a hilarious moment of just all the humans going, yeah, if this was still Earth, we would drown that in the river. That is an affront of nature.
That's a thing in real life of, you see a couple has a newborn and you can't ever say, oh, that newborn should be thrown in a ditch. That's just not an appropriate thing to say.
That is not appropriate. So
instead you go, oh my goodness. And then in your head you think, you hope to dear God they grow out of whatever
thing they got going on.
And that was Mongo 2.0.
Yeah. But Rend is fine.
Yes. As we're talking about it, you've convinced me. I'm going to lower my character rating to a 4 to great, because you're right, Carl, I have to put more credit into the main cast. And I think I put a lot into I loved the crawler, the anarchist crawlers.
Oh, yeah.
I love them, but you're right. Carl, Katya, and Donut were all the same for me. They're still great. So yeah. I'll lower to that.
Exactly. It's more of a...
you convinced me. I'll go 4 on that. Yeah.
I'm happy with that. All the side characters.
Still great.
Louis gets some great attention. I'm loving it increasingly. Is it Louis or which? I love all the jokes of the AI just rooting against. I think it is Louis, right?
Yeah.
Not mistaking it.
Wait, what are you saying?
The AI just like snide comments of like, I hope Louis dies.
Oh.
Just constantly rooting against him. Like, there's no way this guy's living.
Yeah.
At all. I'm putting my money on.
That wasn't Louis. That was somebody else, I thought. Was that
Is
Louis?
It not?
I thought it was
it's the other.
I thought it was whatever the people watching know who it is, but I didn't know. Was that Louis?
Maybe it's not.
No, you could be right. I might have corrected something that was correct.
Again, as evident, the character not like fine. I'm mainly laughing and I enjoyed the joke.
Yes,
it's funny that this character keeps like the AI is omniscient, and how terrifying it must be of constantly hearing the AI going like, no, there's no way Carl, sure, he's probably gonna be fine. you're dead. There's no chance you get out of this. And just constantly going, screw you, AI, I lived. It's great.
Yes.
Everyone, like Carl is like afraid of the AI and like trying to appease it. This one character going like, screw you, AI, I'll live, damn it.
Yeah, we didn't get much of Mordecai at this book.
Well, and we haven't got much of Mordecai in most books.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Mordecai exists.
Taking a back seat.
He's taking a permanent back seat. He's fine.
I mean, what about Ferdinand?
Ferdinand got some good treatment here a little bit.
Juicebox?
Juicebox, I think, far more as a interest, like plot elements and world building. Juicebox is incredibly fascinating. And definitely more endearing character of just
what's going on, yeah.
And also just the moment when she finds out that Louis is not in love with her and just more terrified of her. But instead of becoming rageful, still loves him and still willing to protect him. And you go like, oh, I hope they work it out.
Do you want to go on the plot?
Yeah, let's go on to plot.
What do you plot out of 5 stars?
This is my lowest category of a 2.75.
Oh, below average for you.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3.75. Really good.
There's the high point, the real positives that I could, that I would be given it, and I will give this book, is the pure quantity and the level of clarity is impressive. Right off the gate. Like that is the best part done. Like you tell a ton of work went into this. The reason I go like just slightly below average is individual plot points as they go along feel less significant of themselves. And I got the feeling of the author's hand playing very, very heavily. That many moments that were set up feel like a letdown and just too many Deus Ex Machinas without enough setup. And it felt a lot like there were so many plot points and Dinniman's going, crap, I gotta solve a bunch of these, and just kind of new power and they got a thing and we're moving on. Got that feeling a lot of times. So a little below average.
I think to your first point of the complexity of it, we have Team Retribution.
Yep.
NPCs. We have the former crawlers. We have our main cast. We have the AI. We have the orcs, Veltes, Nagas, the outside species. And that's just some of the powers at play. And the book was broken down into 4 parts. You had part 1, the ceasefire, part 2, the ramp up, part 3, open hostilities, and part 4, the peeling of Larakos. And the whole setup of this plot is, if anybody's played some Minecraft, it's a little bit of Bed Wars, a little bit of, bless you, a little bit of hardcore factions where it's our crawlers plus the NPCs versus 8 other teams.
Yeah.
And we're set up to defend Larakos from everybody else. And while that's happening, outside doomsday scenario on near Venus where a switch could be flipped and everybody dies, basically. So while all that's going on, I think the impressive thing about the book is the amount of subplots going on and what he has to juggle with is impressive.
Yeah.
I think the thing that got me the most invested in the story, that's what I think I've already become accustomed to the complaints you have about it. For me, Dungeon Crawler is the complaints you're having about it. I guess I've always felt the author's hand in a way where there's so much going on that, things just kind of happen. And it creates a cap for me of why these are great and fun books for me, but they're not my top all-time favorite, but I really like them. But for the beats we get here, we get a lot of warfare, trench warfare. We also get the political intrigue and drama, and we also get fun. And by the end, I think the payoff for the most part for me was leaned into. Okay, what were you most disappointed by? So we can focus on that part. Was it you're disappointed by the decision like Katya made and just let down by I wanted more momentum going into book 8?
Ultimately, the ending of major plot points that have been built up for books.
Yeah.
Feel like they were waved away, and that they just last week we don't know how it's gone. Just like kind of the Beatrice thing, where you at least get a cool moment where that's kind of the same thing for some of these plot points. You get a good moment. I think the conclusion with Katya and Donut and how they solve the crown of the sepsis whore is entertaining scene. I liked the moment. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the drama, the character depth, of the interesting decisions that the characters can make and the resulting things that come after, a bit of a letdown. Compare that to something of, honestly, more the train book. The train.
I thought you didn't like the train book.
Anarchist Cookbook is raising on my category the more I think about it. But Katya killing Hekla comes out of nowhere, but is set up within that book more chapters behind of that's the ability. It makes sense what happens, and it's far more impactful. Like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, this thing just kind of happens, but the impact and the consequences afterward feel there.
Did you want more people to die this book?
Yeah, or less people die, but more morally bankrupt decisions to be made. Like I wanted more consequences in this book, and I felt there weren't really many. Even stuff like Louis getting most of his body taken out, and ultimately he's saved. It's like, yeah, okay. I was looking for more consequence than that. Like, this felt like the book for consequences.
So
and I didn't see
a lot of those
that.
expectations let down.
Yeah. And so I'm moving on of just, plot happened. A lot of things happened, but the consequences of those actions did not feel as impactful.
Okay.
And so I'm going into the book in a similar set of like going, just not as excited.
Our main cast, not just that they survived, but you wanted more emotional depth to it.
Maybe some conflict between the characters, some harder choices. That I think there was some teasing of maybe a rift between Carl and what's his name? Katya's somewhat thing.
Yes.
What is his name?
Great question. Yes. The one with the accent.
Yes, the one with the accent.
Yes.
The cat man.
No, it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
It's gonna come.
Oh, that's a great dungeon crawler.
That's a
thing to say.
dungeon crawler joke.
Oh, okay. Dang it! What was it? I understand. Yes.
Point being, like, sees like a rift.
By the way, just a comment on this. I know we're generally bad at names, but for Dungeon Crawler, I very much don't turn my brain on very much for this. Apologies, because it's not the most like informative review.
Sure.
This is. I feel bad because we should have the names down. I agree with your complaint, listener. We will. We're conscious of it.
We probably need, like, going forward,
get those names.
Have a list.
But I didn't want, because the list is 50 to 100 characters.
I guess.
That's insane.
Then maybe we just have the list and we review it right before recording.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. But yes, that conflict.
Batista.
Oh, thank you. See, I was just stalling long enough for us to get the name. Hey, we're back. We got these names down.
We figured it out.
No, we're actually good at this. Yeah, Batista.
You see this kind of rift between him, because like you see maybe a little bit of jealousy of the connection that Katya and Carl have.
Yep.
And maybe that'll continue later on, but I wanted something. I wanted something meaty and juicy to chew on for these characters to have to deal with. And it felt like most of their problems are kind of just solved. Yeah. That's a big reason why my plot is as low as it is, even though I liked a lot of the individual moments. I had a lot of fun. The
boss battles.
Boss battles were bombastic. Great. I love all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some fun twists. Like, I like the moment with the outside help trying to kill Carl and using the Eye of the Bedlam Bride. I liked that. But I honestly like, because I also wasn't super invested in the spider. I wasn't invested in the Bedlam Bride as much either as a character. But that is also another thing of like, it was hyped up a little bit of like, this is going to be a real danger. And then pretty quickly into the book, it's more like, we're wrapped up. We're kind of good. It's now just another one of Carl's mega bombs, basically, in his arsenal.
Yeah, you definitely feel that Matt Dibben had to wrap things up. Some things. He had to close some threads, open new ones. What do you think was promised from the get-go of this book? Of what payoff were you looking for? If it's faction wars, obviously you need a victor. We win in the end. But what was promised to you in this one? Not just series long of book 1 to 7, but this book opens and you're going, ooh, this is what I expect to see.
Do you mean like setup in this book?
Yes, in this book.
Set up for this book.
Because think about it that way of, I know that books 1 through 6, hey, faction war is a thing coming. Mm-hmm. This book starts of what are we getting? Because I set the scene of how's this book even start? We get a little recap.
Yeah.
From book 8 and a cool school report thing. I like the recaps because it actually very much helps.
Yes,
but then what is set up this book?
That's a good point.
If you can bring it back. Because I'm just saying because a lot of
majority of the setup there, I don't think this book has much setup. You know what I mean?
It just goes.
This book has been set up for however many books. I don't know if there's too much set up in this individual book. Most things that are, again, I'm saying set up for like 50 times in a row. Most of the plot points have been established in this book are more micro plot points.
Got it.
Think of one of the moments when they are invading Club Vanquisher. Mm-hmm. That was set up in this book of something they had to do in this whole quest on what they're doing. Mm. It was set up and then immediately kind of like, all right, we got to do this. And then they do it and then they're gone. And that's about it. Okay. Along the way, you do kind of accomplish the goal of, killing the last last owner of the Crown of the Sepsis. Or that way it's down to Katya and Donut. Like, I get all those moments, like that's what is solved in the end, but that whole setup, it's just done a little quick. I kind of hope that in the next book we get to slow it down a little bit and we get a bit more setup, progress, payoff, rather than all of it happening in one chapter.
I get you, okay.
Because it felt like a series of chapter quests of the quest is set up and the quest is done by the end of the chapter.
Okay. That's fair. I think for the plot, how it is structured, the two big setups I got for this book. Now, I think this is where the expectation things shift. I saw this as another episode. I saw this as another book where I definitely want, our ratings are 0.25 away. I generally agree with the sentiment of books, I think really good. But when the two big things with the plot this does, besides it being complex, is one, the structure of the book with the different crawlers, getting their perspective and seeing how they integrate with the team and have solution to problem. I think as far as you're saying for setting up superpower and then solve, the one thing this does really well is set up context for how this crawler is involved, and then it makes sense when they come to help save the day or vice versa. Second thing I liked is because there's 8 other factions involved, it seemed like a very fun step-by-step, how do we take down each one of these teams? Of at one point, the trench warfare, at one point we have the Valtes taking over some of the soldiers' minds. And how do we solve that? Oh shit. Look at now the way that Carl and the team have to solve each and every one of their opponents. And they were all their own mini battles throughout. So it was very fun to progress and go through taking down one team to the next, to the next, to the next with the background of, so I'll agree with you in the end wasn't the most bombastic, but I loved the ride. The ride was always, it's Dungeon Crawl, it's fun. Yeah. But also the mini adventures of going, I was promised take down 8 teams. I was promised we get the cookbook characters. How are they involved in this? And I felt satisfied by all that. Whereas I agree, the main cast to me was the worst part of Conte Donut and all that. But I enjoyed the ride, and I think this was the best way he could have structured the book as well, as far as having crawler point of view, which we haven't had in any prior book, I believe. Of course, we've had some. No, we've had cookbooks, like we've had Carl look at the cookbooks. We haven't had the crawler's point of views and then jump into seeing them, is what I mean.
We've gotten a taste of like with Audette and Mordecai. Like we got a full Mordecai chapter before. So
you're right.
We've seen it a few times, but
it
is more rare. This book, we got a lot more of them.
Yeah. So I guess I was very impressed, and it was a fun ride. Yeah.
That's pretty fair. I mean, yeah, it's a weird balance because I agree with you. My favorite aspect of the plot was the structure with the cookbook characters. It makes you fall in love with the characters, gives you as far as setup wise, you're right. When the characters kind of come out of nowhere to save the day or mess things up, it makes sense we get the great emotional backstory. So all that's enjoyable. I agree. The aspect with the faction wars itself, in previous books, I got the feeling of tension more so of like, oh, how are these, like, this seems like insurmountable odds. How are they going to overcome it? And you feel that tension. I did not feel that tension for like a second in this book of like, this should be overwhelming odds. And maybe it's played to that point of just because you know something doesn't mean like you can't get the same tone and feeling from it. I never had a moment like where I felt the crawlers were going to lose. Like not once.
Have you had that in the prior 6 books?
Yeah. You get the feeling of like, oh, wow, what's going to happen? Or something shocking where you go, oh man, how's that going to change things? In this book, it felt like the crawlers were just so far ahead of every other player. Everyone else is second to these crawlers. They're so much better than everyone else.
I really like the part where our main crawlers are still out of the loop and don't understand how the other aliens game the system. For example, communication broke off from outside the crawl, but they were changing the channel names of the guide of the TV guide to communicate with each other, which was just a snippet that Carl and team didn't know, going, how the hell that people couldn't look at outside cable news and see what was going on, but they would change the name. Yeah,
they could, but because Carl and Dota just like they never added the TV because like, why? Why?
They didn't know that. Yes. Yeah. That was a cool snippet too. But okay. So plot, I think you're entering your Austin phase of Dungeon Crawler Carl, where it's just a fun ride.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book.
Yeah,
but I'm more like my expectations have been tempered. Of going, I'm in for a fun ride next book.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for any conclusion. I'm looking for episode 8.
Got it. Yeah,
I thought that Faction Wars was going to be some type of season finale with more to come, and I got episode 7.
Got it.
Not a finale.
You didn't get episode 9 of a Game of Thrones season.
Yeah, this was
stuff goes down.
This is just another episode, and it was a good episode.
Maybe we can both talk more highly on world building. What'd you give that out of 5 stars?
Yeah, 4.25. Really great.
4.75 nearly floored me. This one is where this is what gets the series for me.
Yeah. The only thing that drags it down for me is in books prior, and I've been talking about this in kind of plot and emotional impact, but the magic and how all the tools are functioning, the aha moments are just basically gone. There's no more, oh, that was clever, or oh, interesting use. It's now just kind of power, and that's about it. And so that in its world building, that's a factor for the story. That's where I'm kind of just dropping it. Like the magic is kind of gone. Yeah,
that actually helps it for me in some ways. Of the that would hurt plot or my overall emotion. It's kind of been like that, but world building of just how immersed am I in this world. First, I'll say why I love it. Of talking about the different powers, it's to recap: the AI, the pacifist group, the orcs, Valete, Naga, etc., the gods and their interplay, the cookbook, the NPCs, Agatha and the residuals, which we didn't even talk about yet.
Didn't even talk about that one.
And just to stack on. Also, Carl's a primal. We can't forget that. There's
That's going to play at some point.
That'll come up. But
Has to be.
And so with all of this, and with that starting piece of Carl and Donut feeling as if they're pawns in this larger, I think as well with the plot as well, all these things happening on page feels if we're getting post context, and that there's constantly so much information we're in the dark on. And I think your point about the magic being gone, or the solutions could not be as fun. I agree that the power level's massive now. All of that to me, oh, go ahead.
To clarify that point is what was fun is breaking the system. It was always great. Like, yeah, the powers are here, but the real magic is Carl finding loopholes and going around the rules, killing the admin and doing all those things.
Oh, don't teeter to me. That's
you
my
get what
part,
I mean? Of like, it's not just using the magic in a creative way. It's using it in a way where you feel like, oh, these characters are like breaking the system to get ahead because the odds are so overwhelming. And now it feels like they're just in the system. They're no longer trying to break things. It's more, it just is. And that's not as fun.
I think they're still trying to break the system. And it's not just Carl and co who are trying to break the system. But for example, what is going on with the NPCs and them that mimicked the nothing?
Yes.
And how did they do that? And also, what is the nothing? And that's another. I think that's the thing I forgot to mention earlier of the buildup at the end of this book is, one, we have the nothing, but two, was it York and their perspective where they're bringing it outside the crawl. We also get a little bit of that snippet at the end.
Yeah.
What I like, this is realistic to the world being brought up now, where the AI in control and havoc being everywhere. I can't see the future books continuing in a way where we're just still going through the leveling system and it's going to break. It's going to burst.
Well, I could totally see of Dungeon Crawler Carl kind of ending as a series, like when the crawl is over, like that's the completion of this series, but then go right into the next with Earth being the new central hub, and it's that central hub versus the current existing galactic empire of like, we now have two galactic factions to go against each other. Yeah. And now we have a completely new story. I definitely see that as a possibility. Maybe the AI is more of an ally than it already kind of is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, why did you think the world building was really great?
I mean, everything with the AI and what we learn about, one, how much of a devastating moment is that of finding out now for sure, broken down in brass tacks, why the crawls happen in the first place, and ultimately why they're not even necessary. Like that the crawl basically takes all these food, and the central AI feeds off of basically these other AIs, the seeds that are basically grown and harvested. But it's fed so much that it doesn't need to expand. Like, it's just fine. Like, sure, it'll shrink ever so slowly over time. Like, it doesn't need to be done this frequently. It can be done differently. But they just do it anyway because it's kind of profitable. But when they're saying, like, oh, it's necessary part. No, it's not. They're fine. But they choose to do it anyway. Is oof.
Yes, and the way to get a fandom over a book series like this, and this came out, I think it was r/Fantasy's best books of 2024. They have it every year. Dungeon Crawler hit the top 15 or top 20 in this last round. It went up so many from its prior year, because it's gotten a lot more popular. But the thing that makes this series popular as well is you can finish a book like this and then go theory craft and go online and talk about every little detail, because the book in many ways could be an entire Wikipedia article and then a bunch of links going to deeper lore into Dungeon Crawler world, where the coolest thing about Dungeon Crawler, the world building, the cookbook, of course, adds so much depth, adds so much character, adds so much history to these crawls. getting snippets of other systems as well, of the Nog, of why they actually play in the game. Of essentially, they're a tourist group of just they just want to promote. They know they're going to lose in the game or when they go into the ascendancy. Or sorry, I'm butchering some of the context here, but the motivations behind all of the aliens, the motivations behind our prior crawls and crawlers, motivations behind the NPCs who are now sentient, the motivations behind the residuals and how there's a couple factions in the residuals and Agatha, they just want to take everything down at this point. Some of them do, many of them do, and so. It's hard to comprehend of just Carl. The thing about world building with Carl and Donut feel like a small piece of this pie. They were thrown into something that feels way beyond them and that I can imagine, where all of the quote unquote randomness that I was talking about in the plot or everything that happens all feels deserved and justified for me. When I'm reading these books, I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is completely real. This absurd, wacky, dick joking world is completely real. I read the book more so for that than anything else. I'm very, very invested to see what happens to this universe.
Yeah, there is something about the world that is just so absorbing. Of a little different from how with Discworld, of how much I love that world. And that it is absurd and ridiculous, but I know when things don't fit and do. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a little different, where I do think almost anything could be in this universe, and yet it doesn't feel any less real.
Yeah.
Which I think is just more so than maybe the world building itself, but probably just a credit to Matt Dinniman's writing of he makes it all fit together in a wonderful package that it makes sense to me.
Oh yeah.
So it's well set up, well executed. That, yeah, you're right. The world is engrossing.
It's very engrossing. And I think the scale of it, again, where it becomes its bug and its feature, of the feature for me, the scale continues to impress me and becomes more gripping as the series goes on, but the scale can also take away some of those emotional beats if those aren't hit correctly, which I largely agree with you on some of those parts of. I was more emotionally invested in some prior books, but that's where you get the push and pull. I'm more invested in going, oh my God, what's happening out here? But then I'm going, oh, I need more Carl and Katya moments. So
yeah. Well, that's the thing, is we got a lot of like moments, but not a lot of very consequential moments that I think we used to get more often.
How are you saying consequential to? Consequential to the character? Because there's obviously a lot of consequences.
Consequential to the character moving forward, of a relationship dynamic change, like fundamental change in where they're going moving forward. Ultimately, the characters kind of are the same moving forward. There's not much of a fundamental change with Carl going into the next book than where he was at the beginning. Same thing with Donut. I like the moments with Donut. If you get some really touching moments between her and Carl, but did anything particularly change with Donut? No.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't put that in the world stuff though.
No, but you were asking me the question of like why that was. I wouldn't put that in world.
Yeah.
But no, the worlds are great.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
gotcha.
It's really great.
Now, do you have anything else on world do you want to mention?
I know we're missing stuff. I just know it.
The pacifist group, which we haven't talked very much about at all. We have so much about the gods fighting in the background of this book was fun.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's increasingly funny how much all of the people who were going to just play this fun game are now getting just sucked into it, of the moment when the AI forced one of the aliens to inhabit the body of the god, and it's like, and she's just going, please no, don't, get me out of here, get me out, no.
Yeah.
And just trying, like, you can tell the Ascendancy games aren't really happening anymore. Like, it's all surface level at this point. They're trying to get out just as much as the crawlers are.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering how that will change the dynamic, because that, I think, is that is supposed to be the tone shift. I'm hoping is shift in tone by the very last scene when what the crew does with Katya to get out of the deal, where it's clear where it was previously set up of like these gods have their own games, they're playing something else, and they're going to involve the crawlers, and they may betray them, all this stuff. But there's that hierarchy game, and that the crawlers have to fit inside of the ascendancy games. By the end, it's clearly shown like these gods don't know near, like they're just the same as the crawlers. In many cases, the crawlers know more. And so it's not an uneven game. Sure, they may have like the technical powers, but they don't have to play their game anymore. And so the ascendancy games isn't going to be it's not going to be their game anymore. It's going to be something else.
I'm excited to see Odette being involved.
Yes.
I'm very excited for that.
I hope. I'm hoping something changes with the position with Odette. They've constantly
Mordecai
played with
her, yeah.
Odette being like, for the most part, an ally-ish of their Carl and Donna are on friendly terms with her. But you've constantly being teased of like, nah, Odette has her own game going on. She has her own stuff, and she'll throw you aside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that there is a good conflict moment, that Odette isn't just the friend all the way through, and that actually secretly is rooting for them as well. I'm like, I want there to be some conflict between the two.
If I remember correctly, and we're going off track here, of course. If I remember correctly, I think the prior review we did for this, one of the things you said you'd be very disappointed by with the whole Tiara plot line was if Katya or Donut didn't die. Yeah. Or if one of those didn't happen, but they both ended up scot-free.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a factor. That's kind of what I was getting with characters and plot, is just, and okay. And we move. It's a character consequence.
So I guess
I wanted there to be consequences for it. That's
I get what you mean.
I'm talking about.
I get what you mean. And maybe a lot of that is the trust of, okay, Matt Dinniman sets up something and says, okay, a character could die here. Oh, look at this conflict between, you have to choose. It's Donut or Katya. And then finds a solution to make it where Katya, she has to make a decision of having a kid, or being pregnant and being taken out of the game. But it wasn't the level of, oh, one of them has to go or create something like that. And sorry to repeat, because we're repeating a lot in this episode, but sorry to repeat that point. But I see what you mean about, can you trust future setups to go, okay, this thing that is built up, I'm going to get a payoff to this thing I care about. And so you can trust future plot lines of, or I felt the same too, of Beatrice being set up a bit and going, oh, okay, subverted a bit. Whereas maybe the Hecla one worked in book 3 because, I thought that was going one direction, but the Hecla dying built up now that plot twist now changes the relationship with Katya. And so
it's a consequential change that changes, like, the past and future are not the same.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental change. With the Katya and Donut thing, it doesn't change really anything. Yeah, I mean, I understand it plot-wise, like, Katya is now out of the game. Mm-hmm. But there's no change in dynamic from the rest of the characters. It wasn't like, there wasn't a backstab, there wasn't a drama, and so it just kind of all kumbaya come together and we move on. Like, plot is closed. And then you ultimately ask yourself, well, why did that exist in the first place? Did that need to be there?
Yeah, I get you.
And that's my increasing worry with Carl and this whole, the river, I thought the Ring of the Divine Suffering was something you needed, something connected to the river that's constantly mentioned. Of anything, I feel like I don't care particularly about like the world building or plot element of this, of what actually is going on with Carl. That I could care less about the actual details of it.
Yeah.
What does it mean for Carl? What is he going to do? It's been built up of like, we should be worried, danger. All right. Is it going to affect his relationship with Donut? Is he actually going to betray Donut? Is Donut is going to be scared of him in the future, of like, they actually have to separate, if Donut's like, I can't be around you anymore, like something. Maybe Carl gets exiled and he's on the outside of the crawler crew. Like, something needs to happen of consequence for Carl's character in that moment. I need it. I need it.
It's coming.
I hope so.
Do you want to finish off with our prose section?
Yeah.
What'd you give prose out of 5 stars?
3.5. It's good.
I gave 3.75. Real good.
It's good. It's funny. It's funny lines.
I noticed a pet peeve I have.
Oh, what do you got?
That did him in a lot of times when something so sudden happens, because a ton of sudden things happen. He'll say, and it happened just like that. Just like that. And like that, it was over. Just like that. And that was it. And just like that. Carl looked over, and there was the thing and the dick in front of him, just like that. So I noticed it enough times where I started.
I wish he didn't tell me that.
Well, it could
I
be,
now can't unsee it.
It could just be a this book thing. I don't know, because
We can hope.
so many things were thrown off Carl's internal monologue, and I don't think it was done out of humor, as in Abercrombie, when Abercrombie writes Glock repeating lines to himself, or Logan repeating lines to himself.
An unidentified body floating down the river.
I think it's just a way that Matt Dinniman explains sudden situation of, oh, look, boom, that happened. And did it just like that, to kind of explain it away in Carl's head, because things are so random in the world. That was my one thing. But other than that, he's improved since book 1 too, as a writer. The character voices.
On just a pure writing level, the ability he does a lot better job with dialogue pacing and plot, like just how he writes, being able to speed up, slow down certain moments. A memorable scene for me. I mentioned it before in this review, of Carl like finding out that Lucia Marr is about to go after
we didn't
Donut.
Even talk Lucia Marr. Jesus.
It's another thing. It's another. Like, it's another set. That's one that's set up, kind of concluded, kind of not. It's more continued, but I think it's handled well enough where like there's still more to come. It wasn't closed. You know what I mean? That plot point wasn't just, and that's no longer a problem anymore, and we're moving on. It wasn't that. There actually is it built the stakes more. Oh, what do you mean all the children of Earth are in this little girl? So good built up. But the writing specifically for that scene was, I think, really well done. Most of these scenes, it's fast paced. What's going on? I love the slowdown of Carl just in fight or flight mode. And we get kind of a, flashback, post hoc, how he broke down this scene of before he could even think, he's moving, and then explaining like, so many times I've gotten myself out of trouble because I move before I speak. I'm the first one to move. And often if you move first, even if you're wrong, you could adjust first. And yeah, it served him very well, but him fucking up everyone else's plans and really almost ruining their plans to save Donut was a really well-written scene for me. I liked that slowed down pace of his thought process for that moment.
Yeah, it's also difficult to sometimes judge the prose, because in those scenes you're talking about, when introducing new characters, Matt Dinniman's writing this for audio as well. Every character has a voice that's described of the writing itself will go, oh, the character sounded like this. The character sounded like that. For Jeff Hayes to then take it away and give the character a voice. So a lot of the times that comes through, and I think Matt Dinniman has gotten really good at the formula of his writing. Mm-hmm. The AI's voice and giving to Jeff Hayes the correct things to say and how to give the annotations. But then on top of that, has gotten better at writing scenes themselves, and more of the action is, the trench warfare has glossed over, didn't go into super detail, but the scenery and the explosiveness and the way I'm thinking about this entire book and forgetting 80% of it and thinking worse of it as I go on.
That's why plot kind of suffered for me.
Well, I think I want to make 2 things clear. One, This is the least confident I've been with thinking about a book now.
Really?
No, the least confident review ever, I think, of substance for us. No, I'm just thinking about it of, one, we serve nobody because the people that love this book, sorry, we're not, it's not our favorites. People that hated this book, we don't hate it. I thought it was good, really good. But I guess here's what I mean. I finished this book a week ago.
Yeah, you had time to think.
No, I had time to think, but also it's recent enough to go, oh, the thing should still be in my head.
Yeah.
But the books I read before that and after that, I can remember clear as can be.
It's
complexity was
consequence. If a plot point, ultimately, if you could take it out and the characters or the direction doesn't really change, it's pretty easy to forget. The things I remember most in this book is when, like, of the instances where the world is now fundamentally changed. Yeah. I remember the moments of consequence. Yeah. But there's a lot of moments here that they're not moments of consequence, they're moments of convenience and from getting to point A to point B. Of just like we're just closing off the threads, cutting off these plot threads, like ending them, rather than ending them and then it changing to something else. Like it's a fundamental change. Yeah. So, yeah, that's
I get what
kind of why I don't remember many of the plot points.
I think I just really like the cookbook stuff.
The cookbook stuff's amazing. That's my favorite
That's
part.
what I remember the whole time.
It's so great.
Oh, man. Well, are you excited for book 8 still?
Yeah. Hey, Dungeon Crawler Carl is one of those series, like, I pick up every book and I want to read it as soon as it comes out. Yeah. The only reason we didn't do that this time is we just got bogged down with other things. That's the only reason it got late. If it were solely up to me, I would have read the book, day of. And I will try to do the same with the next book. Is
there an announcement for that that's coming out at all?
I mean, of course, the book will come out before the audiobook. I don't know.
Let's see. If there's a release date, looks like what?
What?
Oh, that AI is wrong. It says The Butcher's Masquerade, Dungeon Crawler Book 8 was released on April 8th, 2025. 2025, April 8th hasn't.
That's also not Butcher's The AI in this series is a lot better than
Google AI and ChatGPT, all that stuff. Okay. What a book. Again,
this is a podcast. We're yapping about books. Hopefully someone enjoys that. But yeah, we don't have a bombastic review where we lean into an extreme.
No, I just wish I had stronger feelings.
Sure.
Yeah. Let us know your strong feelings down below of Dungeon Crawler. Remind us of some plot that happened so we can. Here's what I anticipate happening as well. There's so much we forgot to mention and so much that I was unhelpful of giving more context to because a lot of it's blurring in my head.
Here's the problem is if we did not mention it, we probably liked it, but in all honesty, not as much a consequence. It just didn't stick with us as well. So I don't think this review would actually be that much better if we remembered every single plot detail. And thing is, most of the stuff is not like, oh, I completely forgot. It's just I forgot to mention. I know, like when you bring it up, like, yeah, I remember. But moments of consequence, I feel like I talked about the things I really wanted to talk about. I mean, if we didn't talk that much about, I'll name some, the Valte and how they function. We didn't really talk about them. We didn't talk about the pacifist network, but in all honesty, I don't really need to talk about them. So I talked about what I wanted to.
One of us here talked about what they wanted to. You know what I wanted to talk about, Rich?
Malazan? Book 3?
Oh, you going
to read Deadhouse Gates?
Actually, that would be a lot less complicated than this.
Honestly, Deadhouse Gates?
Yeah.
I remember all the plot details.
You do?
It is so good.
Really? Okay.
The book gets better with time.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm continuing on to book 3 without you. Mm-hmm. You need to read Deadhouse Gates.
Okay.
Please. Like all of our complaints from book 1 are addressed and then some.
Great.
So
Book 2's that much better.
so much better.
Okay.
Get
Well,
to it.
those are Book 7 Dungeon Crawler review. This Inevitable Ruin. Let us know what you think down below. My opinion is gonna change rapidly over time with this book.
Yeah.
I got some thinking to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Let us know. I might walk back tomorrow with a 4.5 or a 2.5. You don't know what's coming. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.